Hi, thanks for tuning in to our Practical Nerds weekly podcast. I'm Shub, and together with my partner and co host Patric, we normally invest in founders in design, construction, renovation, and logistics technology. Many of our friends in the ecosystem wanted us to start a podcast on the built world, and in return, we decided to honor their request with a show about nothing at all. Patrick, I was wondering what I would use as an introduction to get us set up for this very unique topic you have in mind for this one. And it struck me when the intro played, obviously with nods to Seinfeld.
Ooh,
Remember the very last, the finale of the show,
of
where
course.
the four are referred to as something by
Yeah.
repeatedly by the people present in court. I suppose that's as good a segue for you to take it away.
Now someone is calling me. Fantastic. Sorry, what was the term that everybody in the court stand is calling the four guys?
I think, if I'm not mistaken, something along the lines of sociopath.
Aha. Okay. So that's the topic for today. And we're gonna take a winking eye emoji approach here to this episode. But I said to you, Shub, founders really have no problem. Many founders really have no problem also shitting on VCs and the crap experiences that we as a VC community oftentimes give founders. Shitty in the sense that intransparent, slow, undecisive, not thoughtful, but also sometimes maybe swerving and going back on previous commitments or saying one thing, doing the other. Founders have to endure a lot from VC. But, it's not like the founder community is completely guilt-free either. And we said, hey, today we'll make 1 out of 100 Practical Nerds episodes dedicated to allow us with a winking eye emoji to vent as well and just share the shittiest experiences that founders give VCs. And we have specific examples. We clustered them into 3 buckets. I think, have we thought more than 2 minutes, we would have come up with more.
Yeah,
with more, unfortunately.
absolutely.
But we're gonna make it fun, and these war stories are they will be in our biographies. So today is sort of a, I guess, precursor
Yeah.
to that.
I mean, I'll let you kick us off, good sir, as the sponsor of this topic and this episode.
There's a lot of. I'll kick us off with the first bucket here. But allow me just to say before that, Shub, I mean, how much psychology, even if it's amateur psychology, is in your and my job? It's a lot, no?
It is a hell of a lot. I mean, look, I think often people ask me, do you get tired reading so many pitches, reading all these business ideas? I mean, no, I love it, I have to say. But I think the one unique privilege of this profession or this trade, if I think for those investors who choose to exercise it, is there are very few professions which allow you the opportunity to judge so many different people who generally themselves represent the upper echelons of intellectual ability. And then you get the ability to look at thousands upon thousands of such individuals. Uh, and it's interesting, if you hone in on your skills, psychology or otherwise, it can reveal a lot uh, on how you look at people and how people present themselves to you.
Yeah, and it's thousands upon thousands that we see every year. Then it's a subset of that we do fairly long processes, but that's still for the entire team here at Fundamental hundreds every year. And then you make an investment in, let's say, 10. Yeah, so statistically, that could be roughly where we land. That you then get to work with 4 years. And so the secret to every mastery, of course, is repetition. And I would say also statistical outliers. So if you truly want to understand the pattern, the best thing that can happen to you is volatility and not uniformity. And so luckily we get a lot of volatility because we're dealing with people,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody is unique. Everybody has their own life story and things that shape them, etc. So I have to say that that part of my job I also got to enjoy more and more the longer I've been doing this.
Mm-hmm.
But it also lets you meet some truly, truly irritating founders and troubled
Mm-hmm.
personalities too.
Actually, before we go there, Patrick. Now, one thing, just in response to what you said, folks listening to this may say, "Hey, aren't you looking for outliers? Doesn't this mean you accept and even celebrate eccentric behavior, right? Isn't that's what needed to break things, create new things, etc., fail fast, all of that good stuff? Don't you need crazy people to do all of these things?"
So I was planning to explore that question with you, but if you front load the question at the top of the conversation, the way you phrase it, the answer to all of that is yes.
Hmm.
Do I need a sociopath for that?
Hmm.
Let's find out. So
Okay.
with that, let me throw up one of the definitions people will find online of sociopath. You will find slightly different ones, but overall, I think they will all converge. So here we go. Shub. Key characteristics of antisocial sociopathy disorder. So disregard for rules and social norms. The rules would be violating laws. So, for example, tax fraud, wire fraud, um, criminal record,
Yeah.
etc., but also perhaps social expectations and
Or,
engage in.
or misrepresenting financial details, etc.
Yeah, that brings us to the next point: manipulative and deceitful behavior, right?
Mhm.
So exploiting others for personal gain, using manipulation, lies, and intimidation. That might be bundled, or will be bundled, with a lack of empathy and then a lack of remorse. Remorse is I take accountability for my actions and I don't say, hey, by the way, it was this person that made me do it. The partner that beats their partner and then says, see what you make me do. So that's the lack of that's that, right?
Yeah.
And then we have two more here. ASPD would come with irresponsibility and impulsivity. So struggling with planning, holding down jobs, interesting, or maintaining stable relationships. Oh my God, I have a fascinating example to talk to you about. And then aggression and hostility, aggressive behavior, irritability, tendency to provoke conflict.
Yeah.
Man, I really have to save my best for last here. With this in mind. Okay, so let's come to the first bucket, Shub. So you and I, we have three examples here
Hmm.
that we want to share from the bucket of, I would say, manipulative and deceitful behavior
Hmm.
with a strong streak of recklessness, irresponsibility, and lack of remorse, but perhaps not yet going all the way on the sociopathy, because not breaking laws, not aggressive or hostile just yet. So we're slowly ramping up the sociopathy experiences that we've had.
Hmm.
Start us off perhaps with a example from your pre-fundamental time that you told me about.
Yeah. So this is from several years ago. Interesting story. To give you an idea, as a snapshot of what happened eventually with the founder journey, the company start went all the way from pre-seed to unicorn, and then all the way down from unicorn to nothing. So it's that sort of a journey, right?
Wow.
And maybe in some ways, it's a foreshadowing of my thoughts on these kinds of founders, right?
Wow.
So what happened was, uh, the founder was working in it with an exciting idea. On paper, had a stellar background, right? Was talking to this guy, having a conversation, getting deep in diligence. And unbeknownst to me, for some reason, what he had told a few other VCs was that I had already given him a term sheet. Okay.
Which you had?
No, I had not.
Okay.
right? So I was still doing diligence. In fact, I had not even communicated any decision yet because I had
Hmm.
not completed my process yet. I was ongoing doing other work. But meanwhile, this guy had already told others that I've given him a term sheet. And based on that, obviously, the usual drama of FOMO bidding war apparently had begun, again, unbeknownst to me. And a few other VCs had lined up wanting to give them term sheets.
Hmm.
So one, top tier VC, they presented them with an offer as well. Then they found out, hey, actually, we are not, what
After, sorry, just to clarify the facts, after he had told them that lie.
exactly,
Okay.
right? Then through some sequence of events, which is to this day I've not really uncovered, but through some sequence of events, that top tier VC found out that, hey, actually, the offer from the fund I was working in previously does not exist anymore, right? Whatever that means,
Oh,
right?
which it didn't exist never in the first
It
place.
never existed. It's not that it doesn't exist anymore. It never existed at all in the first place. And apparently, they confronted the founder. For some reason, the founder said that I withdrew my term sheet for some reason, right? Now, again, in usual things, and we have said this often, the VC community is surprisingly closed and they know each other. I knew several folks. I knew even the person involved in that deal from that top tier fund, and he knew me, etc. But for whatever reason, in this situation, that professional in that VC firm, maybe they were completely bought over by this founder. Maybe they were under a spell. Maybe the founder did something. They decided, okay, you know what? I'll take his word for it. And believe it or not, that person went to social media and posted, hey, I cannot believe that in this day and age, VCs abruptly give term sheets, abruptly pull term sheets. How can you do this? How can you be so unfriendly? Right? Don't you know you're causing a massive inconvenience, etc., etc.
So hold on, what was that person? What was it their reality? Do you think they were like believing their own lie?
Yes. And you know how I actually, so the way I found out, because as you know, at that time I was not on Twitter, right? So the way I found out was this VC told some other VC that, hey, so and so has done this. And then that other VC told me, hey, how could you do this to a founder? I'm like, what are you talking about? We've never even offered a term sheet to this company. In fact, we have not even completed our process yet, right? We have neither passed nor agreed to invest. So we are still, you have jumped many steps ahead of me. So that was one of my, it was surreal for me. Like while I'm doing a diligence, I'm being, on one hand, it's being claimed that I've offered a term sheet, withdrawn a term sheet. Other VCs are saying that I have done all these things. And for me, it reached a point where it was so surreal. I obviously had to just stop the process for that reason. There's nothing more
Hmm.
that to be done as far as I was concerned. It's already jumped so many steps ahead in a weird fashion.
Hmm.
Um, because obviously for me, it then reaches a point was not only is there clear evidence this person is lying, this person is
Hmm.
not above making me look bad as an individual, and whichever firm I represent, but they will actually sort of get people to gang up against me, which I find very toxic, very
That's
manipulative.
disturbing.
It's and obviously it's not something you want to put up with for several years after investment. As you and I know, the hardest part of the relationship building, maybe even the reality building, starts post investment, and you don't want to deal with all this drama up front, right?
So how did that make you feel in the moment?
I was like, I don't care. I mean, so believe it or not, at that point, some people were still telling me, hey, this person, and to be fair, the person on paper has a strong background, which again may be a recurring feature of what we're going to discuss today.
Hmm.
On paper, had a strong background. The idea at that time, I mean, I can't talk about the idea because it might reveal too much about the company. The idea at the time was one of the hottest themes VCs were chasing. So people were like, hey, great founder on paper, very exciting theme. Why don't you still go ahead? Right? Why are you getting quote unquote pissed off about this? Right? Why are you losing your cool, etc.? I was like, no, man, nothing doing. I'm not touching this opportunity anymore. Uh, but actually, you know what? Rhetorical question here. Given what I told you that this company went all the way to unicorn and then back down to zero,
Right.
what do you think would have been the right thing to do? So remove or take in the commentary I just gave you, but also take in the journey of the company. What do you think would have been the right thing to do?
I know my answer, but Shub, are you sure you want me to say that on the record? Because it might there's an investment strategy discussion that you and I had about
Okay,
this.
fair enough, fair enough. We'll save that for another time.
Yeah, I think uh, if you have to write that thing to the very end, and you think with a person like that, unfortunately, it will not end well. If those conditions are true, then you shouldn't invest.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So for me, that was like a surreal.
But you slept well. You didn't like.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. My conscience was clear. There were moments, obviously, in the years to come where I was like, I can't believe this company is raising money in this fashion, etc.
Yeah.
But look, would I have still, knowing what I did I feel regret about not doing the deal? No. Uh,
Mhm.
I'm so once I know those sorts of things about founders, it absolves me of any feeling of regret at that
But
point.
it's still not easy when someone goes after your integrity, goes
Yeah,
after your reputation. Many elite professionals will consider their reputation their most valuable asset. And so when someone actually, you can insult, you can um, become very intense with each other. We can, whatever. Sometimes people might get into physical altercations. Luckily, that has never happened in my career here, but there might, there.
interesting. Yeah,
Yeah, but there are jobs where that would
yeah,
sometimes. Okay, so all of that can be very distressing and disturbing. But I think one of the most emotional one of the biggest challenges emotionally could be when someone goes after your professional reputation.
yeah,
And so I'm actually quite amazed to hear that, for you, it was still fairly chill in that moment because that person went after your reputation.
yeah. I mean, look, in these situations, once I have absolute certainty and clarity that there's not just question marks but clear gaping holes in the person's moral fabric, I'm okay in that
Yeah.
situation.
So I had a very similar example.
Hmm.
This was actually in the first year of when we had started Fundamental.
Hmm.
And this was a founder team that came to see us, etc. We had exactly one discussion of 60 minutes.
Okay.
No more discussion, no more data exchange, nothing.
Hmm.
One discussion. The team left the office, hadn't heard from us in, I'm going to say 6 weeks. I actually think it was longer, but I'm going to lowball now. I hadn't heard from us in 6 weeks, other than my email after the initial meeting saying it's not for us. So
Hmm.
there were no more on conversations because, and I'm saying that because this. Sometimes it happens also when a team is extremely early. In 2-3 months, a lot can happen. And then they might reach back out to you and they say, hey, by the way, we just released this feature, we closed this partnership, we did this commercial
Yeah.
development. Would you like to retalk? That had not happened, right? 60 minutes in the office, left, pass, email.
Hmm.
Thank you. Never heard. And then I want to say 7 or 8 weeks later, but maybe it was even longer,
Hmm.
a friend of mine at another VC firm calls me and says, hey, I've heard you've offered them a term sheet. We're also looking at it right now. What can you share with me? And I said, can you say the name again? Because I'm honestly not sure we're talking about the same company. And so he said,
Hmm.
and I said, dude, I've passed on them weeks ago. I haven't had a chat with them in all of that time. Are you sure that's what they said? I literally, I wanted to confirm with him that, because miscommunication happens,
Yeah.
right? I mean, and some miscommunication is honest miscommunication, and some miscommunication, sometimes people can omit facts in order to make something sound a little bit more serious. I wouldn't,
Hmm.
that wouldn't, that's not rising to sociopathy for
Hmm.
me. Okay.
Yeah.
Do I like it? No. Is it manipulative? In a degree, but in a harmless context. I mean, sales is a manipulative
Yes.
profession, if you define it that way, right? So, but that for me is harmless. So I wanted to find out, hey, so what exactly did they say? whether they had perhaps left just a little bit of out and made it sound like that, and then he interpreted from there. No, he said, no, on the record, they said Patric from Fundamental offered them a term sheet. Dude, I can't tell you how big of a lie and how ridiculous that was. It
did
was
you
such a
inquire?
theme that didn't interest me.
Did you inquire
In
about the?
aerial drones for industrial for asset inspection. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so obviously that guy passed, and what these founders either didn't realize or didn't care for is, I mean, once your reputation is destroyed, typically a larger group of VCs will know that,
Yeah.
not because we're actively calling others, but because people call you when you bring up their name.
Yes.
So when these guys say, yeah, Patric from Fundamental, of course people call me. I mean, that's what happens, right? Yeah, so actually, I don't think they ever raised money from this ecosystem again. They went on raising from, well, I think 2 more rounds actually, and in total maybe 20 million, somewhere in that ballpark, 15, 20, 25, something like that,
Okay.
but not in the last 4 years. So it seems that it was a bit of a difficult slog for them. But I would say this rises to sociopathy, but just barely above the threshold. This is absolute outright lying, deceitful behavior, very manipulative. I forgot the best part. And by the way, I then confronted them with that.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. I confronted them with it. And they said, oh, no, it's not what we meant. I said, but hey, he literally told me that that's what you said. No, he's lying to you.
Oh wow.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah. So who am I going to
Interesting.
believe, right?
So you actually crossed a threshold I hadn't. So in the experience that I mentioned before, I just dropped it then and there. I never again spoke with those founders.
Yeah.
Interesting. I think that's quite fascinating that you reached out to them and offered them an opportunity to present their case, I guess.
Yeah. Also because it was extremely inconsistent with my one and only experience with them. They fairly mature founders came from a corporate and consulting career. They were not like newcomers in the business that had been based on purely reading their life achievements erratic in any way or impulsive, inconsistent. So it surprised me a lot. And so that obviously then also creates for me an incentive to understand the situation here rather than judging prematurely. But in that call, they came up with more lies. And so that then confirmed what I had thought of and then never spoken again.
Hmm. It's quite fascinating. I never thought I would say bring this up in practical nerds, but here we are. Um, are you familiar with quantum entanglement?
Yes?
Okay. So you understand how particles are linked, etc., right? So,
Yes.
well, by the way, super cool that both you and I are aware of that. But for the benefit of our audience, so very layman terms, what quantum entanglement refers to is if there are
Spooky action at a distance.
yes,
That's
exactly.
what Einstein called it.
So if there are particles which are inherently tied to each other, uh, their properties or their characteristics or identity cannot be uniquely defined just by themselves. They're all linked to each other. Or another way of saying it is if you know the characteristics of one or some of them, you can also define what the others are like. Um, and I think what sometimes when people say, hey, this has happened, just overlook it and just focus on the other things. In my mind, no, that's not possible because it's intrinsically tied to a certain kind of person who will eventually just keep repeating these things over and over again. And it will not be to, or it could be to several people's detriment, but it'll also certainly be to my detriment as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's for me too. It's hard to. Why should I assume that someone that I establish as a sociopath will have my best interests in mind and will actually become a stable, rational, timeless decision maker? I will never understand VCs that will make these kinds of investments.
Yeah.
We have one more in this category, Shub.
Mm-hmm.
Again, this is the low-key sociopath. We're working our way up here.
Uh-huh.
Spend less time on this one because I think we've established the theme. But here, that there was another lie about.
Yes. Who they were talking to, etc.
Yeah.
Yeah, so look, I mean, so this is a company we have interacted with multiple times at Fundamental. On paper, tremendous team, uh, also, maybe a tremendous opportunity space. And I must say, for most of the processes we have run, we've really enjoyed or had enjoyed the discussions with them. We see them going very far. I think where things took an unusually weird and unexpectedly bad turn is we hit a point where we were discussing about how the fundraise is going, etc. And keep in mind, in these conversations, neither you nor I ever say, "Hey, go and talk to so and so, or go and do this, go and do that." So that's not our agenda.
Because we don't care, quite honestly.
Exactly, right? But for some reason, this person or this founder decided, hey, to say, "Hey, we're talking to this specific person who's again very close to us, by the way, right? At this other top tier fund." And I mean, for some, I don't know why that person. This is completely unprompted. For some reason, they decided to name the specific guy who's very close to us. And I was like, okay, maybe it's a
Well,
fact.
a lie is better when it's specific, Shub. You know?
So I thought, okay, so he's stating it. So I thought, fine. So I'll just ask this person who's well known to us. And then he had never even heard of the company. He
Wow.
had never spoken with them. He had no idea about this company.
I
He
mean,
was
to be fair, some VCs really have selective amnesia, right? So they meet like 5 companies a week, 25 companies a week, and they don't remember which was the number
yeah.
two that they was it that case?
So I tried to filter for that. So then I was
Yeah.
like, hey, I described the team. I described what the company is doing. And they're like, hey, I have never met any company that fits any such description at all. This is 100% not. And I think, the reason why it provoked my curiosity, which is why I thought I had to check, was what this founder told me as the reason they were not going ahead, which sounded like a complete fabrication to me. I don't know if you recall the reason. I'll not say it out loud.
Was it something around the lines or along the lines of, oh, they are not doing this stage currently, they want to come in into
Correct.
later rounds?
Correct. Actually, the other way around, they're only focusing on very early rounds right now.
Oh, like that. Yeah.
And I also presented that which, by the way, that explanation I already knew to be false from our own experiences with this fund. But anyway, I presented this
Yeah,
explanation.
but sometimes it can be the VC who feeds the
Yeah.
founder bullshit.
And
So,
then I'm glad you said bullshit because that's exactly what that person well known to us said.
oh,
We see that this is complete bullshit. Neither have I met this person. No one fitting this description. And
oh
at
wow.
that point, I was like, why would a founder, when things were going so well with us, with Fundamental, why would you feel the need to inject this fake story about meeting this person who's well known to us and make up all these like bullshit reasons about why things are not moving forward? At that point, what it does to me, or in my mind, is I'm questioning my sense of reality and the veracity of anything you say. Because going back to quantum entanglement, I know now for a fact that you're a liar and you can lie. So I cannot, you no longer have the aura or the pristine quality of a truth speaker. So now I have to verify everything you say. And that for me, like, completely breaks the halo effect of the process. I think I've lost your voice. You might be on mute.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, if it's sort of. I will also not understand why a cheating partner
Mm-hmm.
would claim, oh, this was a one-time thing. I think there are these situations, but statistically, they must be the vast, 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 vast majority, a minority.
Yeah.
So, me as the cheated upon partner, I would have to have very exceptional reasons, circumstances to believe that this is the statistical outlier and it will not happen again. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's it speaks about yourself if you accept such a thing and move forward. And I
Yeah.
think that's what makes it really, really tricky getting in bed with a sociopath after you know that they are a sociopath, because it becomes as much about your
Yeah.
decision. And I framed this to you recently about a deal, which we'll talk about
Mm-hmm.
maybe, maybe not. But I said to you, Shub, I know exactly what the risk is. I know exactly what this founder is. It's after this process, we know it. that doesn't mean it's automatically a pass, because it can also be that some risks, when you know them, you take them, you accept them,
Mm.
etc. But when you do, getting in bed with a sociopath, that is as much on you as it is on them, because
Yeah.
you took that risk then knowingly.
Yes.
So let's perhaps move to the second
Mhm.
bucket here, Shub. So this bucket is about so I think are hilarious two examples:
Yes.
aggression and hostility on top of manipulative and deceitful behavior. So again, just I'm looking at my screen here, the key characteristics of sociopathy. So
Hmm.
disregard for rules, social norms, lack of empathy and remorse, manipulative and deceitful behavior, irresponsibility and impulsivity, and then aggression and hostility. So
Mm.
we're moving up the ladder here. Okay,
Yes.
you and I, we're really deserving some higher orders of sociopathy here.
Yes.
Let's go further. Um, I'll start us off with something that didn't happen to me, but to colleagues of ours.
Yes.
Unfortunately, you would think this would never happen, but unfortunately, it does happen once or twice a year. So a founder reached out to my colleagues, wanted to have a chat. They had a chat, and after the initial chat, the founder had shared a deck with us. The deck was as high level as anything that comes out of a certain well-known accelerator. There was literally nothing in there except meme pictures and
You actually got
some.
same pictures?
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah, of
wow.
course. I mean, there
Wow.
was literally nothing in there, and then a fundraising ask and some high-level vision fluff. Let it be 9 or 10 deck
Mm.
slide page slide deck. So they had that one call, and these were two young colleagues at the time. So really no need to feel intimidated by them at all. Really sweet guys, etc. Didn't deserve the following behavior, so they sent a very thoughtful pass email.
Mhm.
Not no generic bullshit, no jargon,
Yeah.
no "we'll cheer for you from the sidelines," nothing like that. We're not doing that here, and neither did they. Um, really thoughtful. And then the founder actually came back writing an email fairly quickly after. So it seemed impulsive to me,
Mm.
threatening. Oh, actually, I forgot the best part. So sorry, before I come to the threat. And before the guy sent an email, he sent a follow-up email from the short call that they had and said, "Hey, I'll pick you guys up with my private jet. Come to London. We'll go to a cigar club, and then we'll hammer out the details of this deal."
Mhm.
Of course, okay. Let it just sink in for context of
Yeah.
this personality here, and then they sent this thoughtful pass email, and then within a couple of minutes, very impulsively, he must have been on the phone, I guess, or so. That person comes back and writes threats about how he will drag their names through the mud, drag our names through the mud. He will make an online post about uh, how nobody is ought to work with us, etc.
Mhm.
Of course, that post never happened because it was bullshit,
Yeah.
and there was no, this is completely normal, and everything had been fair towards him. But yeah, I mean that's something that you don't do when you have a high regard for social norms, you have high empathy, high remorse,
Mhm.
no impulsivity, no aggression and hostility. I think he had all of that.
100%. 100%. I mean, at that point, you're not dealing with a founder in a startup context. You're dealing with someone who's hustling you and uh, doing deals the mafioso way.
Yeah. I'll pick you up with my private jet, and we'll go to a cigar club and we'll hammer out a deal. I will never forget that. I mean, it's wow, just wow,
Yeah.
right? And these guys, I mean, they were at the beginning of their career. Yeah, let it be 2 years at the time.
Yeah.
It's not nice.
Yeah, I mean, I had a, similar example to share from this category. I mean, I'll spare you all the details leading into the climax. So I think to cut a longer story short, there was a difference of opinion, and we decided not to invest in this specific company, and that caused the founder to lose all cool. They were like, "Hey, you know what? every founder in that specific geography where the founder was based will know about this. I will make sure no founder ever takes money from you. Everyone will hear from this.
Because you passed.
Yes.
Ah, yeah.
So I'm like, okay, dude.
Did you insult his mother or something?
No, I mean, you know me, man. I mean, given a chance, I'd rather be passive than overactive. Yeah,
There, I remember that in that company it was actually an old friend of yours that had led their previous round.
that's right.
Did the founder know that?
So they claimed that hey, they apparently entertained these discussions as long as they did because of that friend who made the introduction,
How gracious.
and
Thank you.
apparently this friend will also now know how bad we are, etc. And apparently they will also be told to make sure we can never invest in that region. I mean, of course, none of that is true. We have invested more in that region, etc. And those outcomes, by the way, have also been
And also again with that friend of yours, by the way, after I do.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's we also invested with that friend.
So what do you think triggered the founder?
Look, I think when situations get tough, I think in some other episode of Practical Nerds, we have discussed that the best founders know how to handle pressure and know how to handle, retain their calm, take responsibility for themselves, and focus on how to solve it, and also treat investors or prospective investors as partners and uh, people deserving of trust and respect. Uh, Frankly, this was a case where maybe the founder here was facing pressure, and for whatever reason they lost their cool and they externalized responsibility. And the truth, perhaps, in as usually happens in these situations, is maybe the company was desperately needing cash,
Hmm.
and all rejection allows you an outlet to externalize responsibility and the pain. And I think that, not that I'm not saying any of this is acceptable, by the way. None of this is acceptable, because the way I'm processing it as an investor is, if you can have an outburst like that on me one day, you're probably having outbursts like that often with your employees. You may have outbursts like that with your vendors. You may have outbursts like that at some point with customers when you negotiate terms with them. So I don't want to be part of that sort of drama.
So was it you think it was a pressure coping?
That's my hypothesis.
Mm. I would accept that from founders in other ways. I would accept if it's a one-time thing. I would accept shouting at me. I would accept venting, like turning up the intensity.
Oh, I've even within our portfolio, I've even asked founders if it would help them deal with stress to just call me and just vent freely, right? And some founders do that as well, by the way. But of course, venting is not the same as threatening.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
I was exactly my point, right? So I think if pressure gets to you and that causes intense in the moment behaviors, I know I'm guilty of it.
Hmm.
I know I am, right? And it expresses in me probably, every now and then, it gets louder, right? So that's possible. But to go into the threat territory, the lies, the gaslighting, the
Hmm.
manipulation, running away is another very sociopathic
Yeah.
characteristic.
Mhm.
That unfortunately becomes, at the very best, unreliable, at the very worst, predictably harmful.
Mhm.
So hard to make a deal that way
Yeah.
and form a partnership. So
Indeed.
we saved the best for last. So
Indeed.
again, I'm looking here at the key characteristics of sociopathy: disregard for rules and social norms. That bucket has a lot of disregard for social norms that we're going to talk about. Lack of empathy and remorse, struggle to understand, share the feelings of others, may not feel guilt or regret for their actions. Yep. This bucket that I'm going to talk to you about has a lot of that.
Okay.
Manipulative and deceitful behavior, exploiting others for personal gain, using manipulation, lies, and intimidation. Hell yeah. has this bucket. Irresponsibility and impulsivity. Yep, the crown, the king example of this bucket definitely has that. Struggling holding down jobs or maintaining stable relationships. Oh yeah. And then aggression and hostility may exhibit aggressive behavior, irritability, and a tendency to provoke conflict. All right, let me tell you of the more harmless one of this 5 out of 5 bucket here that I have. So this is a founder that before I had deal conversations with them and then we formed a partnership, was previously founding employee of 2 other venture-backed companies. One of them what was an ops-intensive marketplace. It didn't work. It burned through, I think, a couple of tens of millions, but that wasn't that founder's fault.
Okay.
And that person was a founding member there, but it was and that is important because that was part of a type of company and an ecosystem that was very well known for hustling hard, move fast, break things kind of culture. Let's work until 4 a.m. and be back at 8 a.m. Very bro-y, masculine, Uber type kind of a culture. So very, very well known for that. And there he was working for the founder, which in that country has a reputation for being, so we say in German, you sail hard at the wind. So basically just, taking behaviors that would just still be considered legal. And that founder's boss, the other founder, taught him a lot of ropes. And then he took that learning with him to his second company where he was not technically a founder, but part of the C-suite. And then the CEO was removed. The company was in distress. And the founder I'm talking about now then became the CEO, successfully navigated the company through a difficult restructuring and an eventual exit, made him also some money. Where in that situation, probably the very rigorous and sociopathic behavior that I'm going to tell you about probably was an asset, actually, navigating through those very difficult waters. Okay, and that led him to then work with a VC friend of mine, and we helped them incubate a company. And we knew that he had troubled relationships from the past. We knew that employees were saying, I'm never going to work for them again. Way too intense environment, very transactional behavior towards employees. As long as you perform okay, once you stop performing, basically, and that was not a one-time thing. That was something that got perpetuated. Now, in defense of people that can have, of founders that can have that reputation, I don't take that too seriously as a single, let's say, color of your persona or characteristic, because sometimes reputations also get self-perpetuated unnecessarily. It's the Chinese whispers kind of a thing, and you need to contextualize. And the previous company that he, restructured and helped sell, if you're in a restructuring situation, you're not winning your awards for it. It's not going to happen. So you have to contextualize too. Okay, so we co-led the first round. Had a 2 or 3 year relationship going quite well. The founder had been, I think, doing a very good job the first years of building another ops-intensive marketplace type business.
Okay.
We were quite happy with it. And then, unfortunately, I caught them in something that I found acceptable. And that was, they had this founder and their co-founder had this habit of hustling shareholders into signing stuff quickly. And unfortunately, they didn't have the habit of writing and contextualizing what it is they were proposing as a shareholders resolution. When your company is extremely simple and there isn't much to decide, that's something that will not create problems for the shareholders. But there came a time, again, this was after 2 or 3 years, there came a time when they had a very, very extensive shareholders resolution with an attachment of 180 pages. And this was pre-LLM, by the way. So I couldn't just run it through the LLM. Okay. And then the founder hustled all shareholders. You need to sign this by tonight. I didn't sign it by tonight because I hadn't read it yet.
Any credible reason why it has to be signed by tonight?
No, absolutely no credible reason. None.
Okay.
I mean, this was ahead of a fundraise that, where basically the term sheet had been signed, the legal due diligence was coming to a close. But still, if you just give this the proper time, the other fund would just close a couple of days later. There was no distress in this fundraise, nothing. This was a hotly contested round, multiple term sheets. No, this investor was as committed as anyone you had ever seen under the sun. So no, I would say I would not give them any kind of excuse on that front.
Okay.
So again, hustled the next morning, hustled the next afternoon. And I don't know, after the fourth hustle or so, I basically wrote them back, hey, you're spending more time hustling me than actually explaining what's in the documents. Can you please just put on paper what is in the documents? Why do you need it signed so quickly? And then I can prioritize and sign. And by the way, I wasn't even the last to sign. Several others hadn't signed as well. Yeah. So this was purely hustle tactic.
Okay.
And unfortunately, when someone does that to you, I'm sure I'm not the only one out there, it at some point makes you ask the question, what is the reason for the urgency?
Yeah.
Okay, so they put to paper why they said, what is in there. And unfortunately, they actually left out a few spicy details of what had to be signed. And so because my alarm bells were already just slightly going off, only slightly, because I've had, again, 2 or 3 wonderful years of a partnership there. They have done stuff, fine, etc. But of course, the founders had a history. I then actually went, once I had the time, and this was maybe 36 hours after the original email. I mean, let that sink in, right? So 36 hours is not a long time to review a shareholders resolution, okay? So then I read it. It was I think Wednesday morning. I read it, and on page 159 or 60, I discovered a very substantial change in the terms that would benefit the founders. So I confronted them with that, and I said, "Hey, what is this about?" Etc. And then instead of replying, they just asked me to get on a call. So we got on a call, and on the call, there was no assumption of, oh, sorry, we forgot to tell you about it. There was no assumption of any kind of responsibility that this should have been better explained, that it shouldn't have been done in the context of hustling or whatever. Nothing. Instead, there was a very impulsive reaction to, why are you asking these questions? You should just sign. You're holding up the whole thing. I wasn't, because there were other people not having signed yet. So just to be clear, and this was 36 hours in. Sorry, by the way, I mean, there's a whole nother level of assumption of responsibility here on the founder's part. Why the fuck do you come up with this if you really need it that quickly only now? Why wasn't it done 2 or 3 weeks earlier?
In my mind, yes.
Okay, nothing of that. So it was basically accusing me why I started asking questions. You know who else does that? The mafia.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. So I then said, okay, guys, I'm losing all trust here. I'm going to give you my signature on this, but... And then from there, the relationship deteriorated. I wish I could say unfortunately, but the problem is, you call it quantum entanglement. I think it's also Schrodinger's cat. So both from quantum mechanics. So once I actually measure the state of the property in the system, I can't go back. I know now the speed or the position. So unfortunately, very, very difficult to go back on that and then trust each other. So yeah, that unfortunately is something that happened, and it is consistent, and that's something that I had to learn with things that perhaps I should have seen earlier. Maintaining stable relationships, that is a real problem for that founder, to be honest. I mean, you know that founder too. Would you agree with me on that?
I would, yes, 100%.
Yeah. So this is like
And
up until...
by the way, I think for the benefit of our audience, when we say stable relationships, I think what Patrick is not necessarily alluding to is personal relationships. Building a successful business, means you cross paths with lots of different people in several different capacities. If you keep burning bridges at each time, then you're reducing your probabilities of luck working in your favor to help you compound.
Yeah. And to be clear, Shub, so the point is not that burning bridges is the cause of sociopathy. No, it is a symptom of it. That's what we're saying.
Yeah.
So for a very long time, this one counted as my most regretful sociopathic experience with a founder I've had. But then, someone basically took off the basketball shoes and played on the basketball court barefooted.
Okay.
And this one was fun, I have to say. Actually, really, really fun. So this founder, let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4 companies.
Mm-hmm.
And believe it or not, Shub, had founded and led 4 companies. And in the diligence process, there would not be a single person give us a reference.
Yeah.
That founder had 15 years of a career, 1-5. So I'm starting with the most funny fact now, but can you believe it?
It's unreal, man. It's unreal. When I had heard that, I was like, wow, I mean, that's a singular person. Not necessarily the singularity we like, but nevertheless a singular person.
It took that founder almost 3 months to produce one reference outside of their mother and a high school friend.
Yes.
Nobody from the first company, nobody from the second company, which was a coin ICO, initial coin offering, nobody from the third company, and third company company slash era in the company, and nobody from the fourth and final one. Not a single one.
Isn't that something?
Honestly, if you had told me that I would ever have such an experience, I would have said that is not possible. That's just statistically improbable.
Yeah. I mean, I know we can't go into specific details, but trust me, viewers. I mean, that is one crazy um, set of circumstances and explanations provided for those circumstances.
Yeah. Now, sometimes people have bad luck, and so this in and of itself, and some people also don't prioritize relationships. So sometimes it is also, not everybody is making a lot of friends along the way. So that in itself, what I just said, is just extremely improbable. It has never happened in my investment career. Shub, has it ever happened in your investment career? Okay.
That someone with that much experience is not referenceable? No, never.
Completely in reference. And sorry, by the way, thank you for saying that. So it was not just asking them to produce references. That's something that we do, and
Yeah.
that didn't lead anywhere. We also obviously have a responsibility to try it. In fact, that founder then went on and said, "Hey, but please don't call that specific person at that specific account."
Yeah.
And
So,
then came up a long-winded explanation
yeah.
of why that will be a problem, and that led into an entirely interesting experience that ended up with, how do we describe this, Shub? I would say movie plot
Yes.
type explanation of why it is better for us and for the founder not to call someone there. But that entire movie plot had nothing to do with wrongdoing from the founder, by the
I,
way.
I had no idea we'll end up here when I made the reference to the mafia, but actually it's not. It maybe has some similarities with scenes from The Godfather.
Yeah, there was a synonym for mafia being used by the founder, accusing that company and etc. as something with a synonym. I got it, but of course, in that whole movie plot, there was the founder was not to blame, right? So the
Yes.
founder had nothing to do with nobody from that era of his company wanting to talk to him. It was all them. Yeah. So believe it or not, we actually honored that request. We didn't try there. We
Yeah.
tried other parts. Nobody wanted to talk. Okay. Luckily for me, there were people who were not afraid to talk about that founder online. One of them actually said, "This founder is a fraudster." Wow. Okay. And then you you went down a rabbit hole. Oh, that person isn't alone in saying that. Oh, hold on. That person has posted screenshots of WhatsApp conversations. Interesting. In that WhatsApp conversation, 15 pages of screenshots. This founder basically always promised something, didn't deliver it, then came back and then make up some kind of externalized excuse. I'm in the hospital, my dog died, I had to attend the funeral, this and that and the other, any kind of excuse, and then always delaying the process. I'll get back to you next week. And then when that didn't happen, sorry, I had a relapse. I had to go back to the hospital. It's absolutely hilarious when you read it. Being asked about that, the founder said, again, it was a set of circumstances that did that, which any of these stories that he spun, they would be movie. They would be scenes in a movie. It's unbelievable. You know, it's to do with the IRS here and extreme set of circumstances there. Not a single time has this founder said, "I fucked up."
Yeah.
Not a single time. Completely unbelievable, which led ultimately to something, you know, that I think you foresaw coming. So we invested the time to offer the founder a debrief call on why we were not going to move forward with an investment.
Yeah.
And of course, the founder exploded after hearing the first reason and used that to create real drama. And I'm not saying a little bit. I'm not saying adversity, you know, getting into an argument. I'm saying switching the tone. It was unbelievable to see, switching the tone from smiling and laughing, literally the moment before we laughed together, to "this is extremely offensive," like this, and literally with those words, and then went on in a 30-second tirade about how extremely offensive that is. I could literally see in front of my eyes a psychological case study. It was very, very instructive. So I'm looking here at aggression and hostility. Sociopaths may exhibit aggressive behavior, irritability, and a tendency to provoke conflict.
Yeah.
Exactly that. There was no reason to react that way. Quite the opposite. You know, we made an effort to actually walk him through our rationale, our reasoning, and all of that fact-based, objective, all of that he had heard before. There was no surprise. There was no inconsistency, nothing. So completely made up, provoke conflict. And unfortunately, that then was very consistent ending to a person that for 15 years was unable to maintain any kind of relationship with anyone, ran 3 from his 4 companies, ran from, documented, ran from it, and spun some kind of movie-like stories, Shub. I mean, the word national security came up more than once, didn't it?
That is true.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, but by the way, you indeed saved the best for last, and I can see it was quite cathartic for you. Just recalling this, even with hiding, not revealing all the spicy details, even that was cathartic for you. I can tell you, seeing those or experiencing these two cases vicariously through you, if some of our audience is thinking, hey, we're describing some Netflix true crime style documentary thing, they are actually like that. These people are like that. Believe us when we say that. And
I mean,
yeah.
Shub, you're Alfred Lin, one of the most accomplished and revered investors on the planet. And you got manipulated by a founder to invest in FTX.
Yeah.
I don't know Alfred personally. We have a mutual friend with Alfred who knows him to a degree well, I would say. And based on the little things that I know from that, my guess is that it's hurtful to lose the money in FTX, but I think it might have been more hurtful to actually have the humiliation of being
Yeah.
manipulated in the way that Bankman-Fried did.
Yeah.
I think that was truly the hurtful part of it when you get into bed with a sociopath.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's other such cases that we've talked about, very high profile cases of decacorn plus companies where I guess many of what you'd call the world's best investors have piled in. I can tell you, I mean, I've met such folks who've invested in such companies, and I mean, being the polite but cheeky guy that I am, I sometimes even ask them, "Hey, what caused you to invest in so and so company?" And I can tell you, it's an indefensible position. It's really an indefensible position. There
So
is
that
no,
bring,
yeah,
but I think that brings us to the top question of the conversation as we wrap up here. So you asked me, hey, do you need to be a sociopath to build super large outlier companies?
tricky question. So if you phrase the question that way, do you need to be? My answer to the question phrased in that form is an emphatic no,
Me too.
right? Now, the counter to that question, or a question differently phrased, is can you still build a super valuable company while being a sociopath?
I would say yes, at least temporarily.
Yeah, so I would say there may be a point in time where the company you're building becomes valuable. Is it going to be an enduring success story? Is it also a temporary success story from which investors can actually extract returns? I am not so sure.
So timeless, I'm absolutely certain it's not
Yeah.
possible to make it a timeless. Now, I'm looking at the characteristics again, and it starts with a disregard for rules and social norms. I
Mhm.
actually think that is the part
Yeah.
of sociopathy that I think is quite required to
Yes.
build a from scratch, enduring, category defining outlier. I think that is important, except for laws. So
Correct.
please do not touch the laws.
Yes.
But rules and social norms are something else. It's the rules of the game that you're expected to
Or
play. How
the rules that experts tell you need to work, etc.
exactly
Yeah.
how the industry has always done it,
Mhm.
etc. So there, I would say perhaps that's the overlap with why we do see sociopaths being perhaps more represented in the spectrum of outlier founders than in the general population. Perhaps I actually don't know if that statistic exists. If anyone did the research, I have no idea. Perhaps that is the case. If that were the case, I would posit it's because of that, but
Mhm.
not because of a lack of empathy, a lack of remorse, manipulative or deceitful behavior. I think all of these might be temporary success factors where they accelerate you to a certain status, but they're also the reason why you go down. I invite everyone to read the story of Ryan Breslow of Bolt.
Okay.
Fascinating example of the last year and then the 5 years before. And ask yourself if it were your money, not someone else's, not leveraged, you had your own money,
Mhm.
30% of your net worth in a founder like that, how would you feel? That's a fascinating thought experiment for everyone.
Okay. I'll read up on that. I'm not familiar with this story, I must admit.
Yeah. I do think we need to hunt outlier people. That's the psychology part of
Yeah.
what you and I are doing. And it does come with extreme traits, extreme behaviors, perhaps extreme trauma in some cases in
Mhm.
the background that shaped extreme capabilities, viewpoints, and behaviors. But I will never, ever again accept lack of remorse, manipulative, deceitful behavior beyond the sales part that we
Yeah.
discussed. Irresponsibility, impulsivity, aggression, and hostility. I mean, the last two from these last two examples are absolutely. What's interesting is they actually emotionally, none of those actually touched me very much because it was so ridiculous. Um, it was comical. That's the term. It was so comical that it didn't touch me for more than 60 seconds.
So I think it becomes comical once you remove yourself from the bubble. I think and which I think is maybe a topic for another time. I think the reason why you get these weird cases every now and then, you mentioned Sam Bankman-Fried, and there's a few others in that club, if it can be called a club, where you do have a situation where the investors associated with these founders are completely sold hook, line, and sinker on these founders, and they back them to the hilt. They kind of act as like propaganda, paid propaganda artists for these people, and they build it up to a
That is
certain
true.
point. I think it's kind of, it is very obviously comical once you're outside the bubble, but I think when you're inside the bubble, it's almost like a weird cultish excitement for these eccentricities and weirdness.
I can see that.
Yeah.
By the way, fun other one, founder that walks barefoot downtown Manhattan.
Yes. Yes. Exactly.
I mean, that in itself I find lovable, quirky, I have to say.
Yeah. I think
But I
that.
think it,
Yeah, that specific trait I wouldn't call as a sociopath, but you're right. That's the most harmless trait of that founder.
yeah, exactly. So if you know the founder, you'll know what we're talking about. So, but no, but I find it comical. But the thing is, these people, they don't find it comical, right? So for them, it is, I don't know. So this is where my psychology understanding has to end, and where I don't need to take it further. I only need to judge the people. I don't need to, sorry, for my own decision, but I don't need to judge them for life, or find I don't know, remedies. Um, but I do think that they do live in a reality sometimes
Hmm.
where their perception is not yours and mine, or that of the people that they screwed over and whose bridges they burned. I think for them, it can actually be a completely alternate perception of reality where I was really working on national security.
Yeah.
No, you weren't. And people have told us you weren't working on national
Yeah.
security. Yes, but there were machine guns. Yeah, like everywhere
Yeah.
in that country. It's an alternate reality sometimes.
Yeah.
And that in itself might be the key characteristic.
You're right.
So, Shub, sometimes you and I, we also have to endure, and many other VCs, we also have to deal with some really shitty behavior.
Yeah.
Luckily, this is the absolute exception.
Yeah.
We get to love our job.
I mean, if you are a founder that fits this description, please don't reach out to us. If you're not, and hopefully the opposite, then yeah, we'd be happy to talk to you.
I mean, every now and then a comical episode is also okay, no? Coming back to Seinfeld.
That is true. That is true.
Mm.
We'll
Yeah.
try to see the funny side of it.
Babu Butt with the
Yes.
finger. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you, sir. Good therapy session.
Nice fun. Yeah. Yeah. Nice fun.
Cool. Happy weekend.
Happy weekend, sir.